So Rick Beato made this video where he accuses several artists of essentially theft, song theft. Um, I know, like from the comedy world, like joke theft, pretty big fucking deal, right? There's no such thing as like doing a cover of someone's comedy routine, like or like you steal something, it's fucking theft. It's straight up theft. Um, Different kind of art form. With music, music is not that varied, honestly, especially when we talk about Western music. Like, you're going to see a lot of the same themes pop up multiple times. And it's not really theft, it's just those are the note relationships we have to work with. So it's just kind of how it works is you're going to see the same kind of note relationships pop up multiple times. Now, specific melodies, some of those people own that melody. They own that relationship between those notes in that key at that tempo, um, with that rhythm. But that is the notation. It applies to how it's performed. But as soon as you change that, depending on how much you change that, determines whether or not you are infringing on their intellectual property in terms of whether they should be given a credit on the work that you did. So here's Rick Beato accusing several popular artists of infringing on other people's creative property. So let's take a look at this. This is a reaction video from Top Music Attorney, who is very, very good. Her video on Ren has an issue with a beat that he licensed that the person who licensed the beat to him had used a sample that was owned by somebody else, and now he's getting fucked for it. She has a very good hour-long video on that. This one, she ignores a lot of stuff, and we're going to go through that as well as going through Rick Beato's fucking boomer rambling bullshit where he doesn't understand what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to music, let alone ownership. So let's just roll it.
These new songs are directly copied. I don't understand how they can use the same melody, note for note, and not get credited for it. Interpolates, what does that mean?
As a lawyer of 10 years, I can answer all these questions. Who doesn't love Rick Beato? So I appreciate Rick Beato and his music education channel. He released a video inquiring about this interpolation thing. What does it mean? How does it affect a copyright owner's rights? Do you have to get permission? Are lawyers just making this word up? As a lawyer of 10 years, I can answer all these questions. Let's jump into it.
Over the past couple of days, I keep getting fed the same couple videos. I'm sure you have too, because both of these videos have over 50 or 60 million views. Let me play them for you. At home, 'cause I was doing better alone.
So first example he uses is actually, Dua Lipa, and then In Excess, right? Bad example to start with. Not only are they in different keys, but we're talking about, all right, dun, 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 right? Two bars. The In Excess original song has those two bars repeat and repeat and repeat. Even the verses. Dun, 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 it's still the same fucking musical idea repeated over and over again. There's literally no variation in that fucking song. Dua Lipa's song has, in the chorus line alone, references the idea of that rhythm in a different key for those 4 bars, but it continues on and completes the musical phrase. So it brings it back home. So it goes. It's substantially changing and adding to what they did with the NXS track, also in a different key. So it does meet some of the criteria for alteration, what you need to do in order to not be considered a derivative work. So to the layman, yeah, sure, it sounds similar, and it does evoke some thoughts of the original because it is in the same rhythm and a similar key, but it's not the same fucking thing. That's key here when it comes to copyright law, because it's not what's on the books. It's not what the law says. It's about precedent. That's something that she doesn't talk about at all, which is fine. She doesn't have to, but I think it's misleading to not mention precedent. And precedent states, based on previous cases and previous wins for people who have won, that that is not substantial enough. It's not substantive to say that this is copyright infringement, or that the writers from Need You Tonight would warrant a writing credit on this song. So we'll go on to the next one. I can't control it, I can't control it. I was made for loving you, baby. Prisoner, locked up, can get you in. Okay, so now we're going to not only mislabeling the artist, because it's not Dua Lipa. She's on that track. She's the guest vocalist. It's a Miley Cyrus track. But that's irrelevant because who wrote that shit? Not Miley, not Dua Lipa. But they're comparing it to Kiss and Olivia Newton-John. The Kiss part, we're talking once again about na 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 na. 2 bars. You don't own 2 bars, guys. I'm sorry. You don't own 2 bars of a fucking melody. You can't. Until the courts say so, you don't. Then the next part is what follows. So it's mashing up essentially 4 bars of the melody from a Kiss track with Olivia Newton-John's Physical. So we have Prisoner. Da 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 da, right? With Olivia Newton-John's Physical. Na 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 na. No, you can hear that side by side. They're not the fucking same thing, dude. Those 2 things are completely different melodies in 2 completely different fucking keys using 2 different, completely different fucking scales. They're nowhere fucking close. And once again, if you were to even say, okay, fine, let's ignore that the fucking scale isn't the same, the rhythm and the keys being notwithstanding, the rhythm is similar, right? So let's just say, for the sake of argument, they use the same scale. Let's say they use the same scale. Okay, once again, we're back to the same argument from the last track, where it doesn't continue on with the same bullshit with na 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 na. No, it changes by changing the root note of the chord. It drops in a chord, and actually, there's a whole chord progression to Prisoner. So na 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 na. It makes it so it's a 4-chord progression, similar to most fucking basic ass rock songs you'd ever hear, or most pop songs. A 4-chord progression. Physical doesn't do that. Now, if they were to continue on with the Kiss track, then they'd probably be a little bit more in trouble there, because I'd say, yeah, you're absolutely just aping the entire melody, because that does go to a 4-chord progression for the melody. This they didn't do. And best guess on this, not that I know any better, but I would say the producers of this track and the writers on this were aware of the fact that if they were to do that, they'd get fucking dinged for it and have to pay royalties. So instead, they mashed up two different things and chose the simpler thing to flesh out and use the more complex thing to use just for, to use 2 bars of. But, that's part of producing. That's part of composing, is if you're going to use things where you're giving a nod or a tip of the cap to something that already exists, you don't want to get sued for it. And also, if you can get away with it, you don't want to have to fucking pay anyone for it either. So there's that. We'll keep going.
And then the funny thing is, these aren't even music channels. This is something you might expect to see on YouTube Shorts from me or on Instagram. These are just regular channels. And regular people can see how these news songs are directly copied. The melodies sound identical. They're so similar that they're like, yeah, we all get this. You don't even have to explain it to them. So I thought to myself, I wonder if the songwriters are actually getting credited for this. Let's start with the song Prisoner by Miley Cyrus, because it uses 2 songs that it borrows the melody from. I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss and Physical by Olivia Newton-John. The first song was I Was Made for Loving You. It's on Kiss's record Dynasty, which came out in 1979. The songwriters, Paul Stanley, Vinnie Poncia, and my old friend Desmond Child. If we take a look at Prisoner, you'll notice none of the 3 songwriters are credited. Next we have...
All right, so real quick sidebar, okay? So when it comes to the right of attribution under copyright...
Okay, right of attribution is pretty important here. This is where she's going to go into the whole details of some of the jargon, which is going to help. Later, she'll bring up interpolation as well, which, trust me, Rick Beato is going to go fucking apeshit on the word interpolation. I'll explain later why his issues with it are fucking bullshit. But yes, right of attribution is important, and here she is just going to display why it's important, but not explain why it's important in context to what he just said, which is why I have issues with this video, because I'm like, she could be nailing him to the fucking wall on how fucking wrong he is, but she ain't doing it.
Copyright law, that's what we say. There are certain exclusive rights that you get as a copyright owner for making a song, and it's such as the right to copy the song, to edit the song, to distribute the song, but it's also the right to attribution. Getting credit for something that you wrote, very important. If someone makes something based on your creative thing, it's called a derivative work, and you still are entitled to credit, which is what he is pointing out. Well, in this case, the lack of credit.
Physical by Olivia Newton-John, which is from the record Physical, which came out in 1981. Songwriters Steve Kipner and Terry Shattuck. Neither of them are credited either. I don't understand how they can use the same melody, note for note, and not get credited for it. But let's
see. And here's the thing. He says, I don't understand how they can use the same melody note for note and not get credit. Well, as I just displayed, go ahead, clip out my onomatopoeia of those melodies. I'll do it again. Clip them out, layer them one over the top of the other, and tell me there's no dissonance, right? So, na 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 na, and then physical. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. My bad singing and poor fucking note control notwithstanding, auto-tune both of those so that they're locked in, put them over the top of each other, and tell me there's no dissonance. If there's no dissonance, they are note for note the same melody. If there's any dissonance whatsoever, they are not the same fucking melody. That is just fucking how sound works. For fuck's sake. I am so tired of this bullshit where it's like he fucking knows better. This man has composed music. He should be able to tell it's not the same. Now, maybe he's trying to communicate that the rhythm is similar, but you can't own a fucking rhythm. Fucking the Frankenstein rhythm. How many times have different artists use that exact same rhythm with completely different keys? And no one's ever gotten hit for it. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this stupid shit. I feel like I'm fucking Ted Lasso would be like, no, we're not talking about a game. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. Not a game. Not a game. Practice. Like, oh, God. All right. All right.
See if it actually mentions either of these songs in the wiki.
Now, little extra sidebar here. It could have been the deal if there was a deal done, right? So in most cases, if you're going to use something from someone else's song, we're going to execute a license agreement for that use. And typically,
okay, now here's where she's making concessions for something that doesn't need to be made. She's saying, well, it depends on the licensing deal. Perhaps, there was a deal where, they were able to license that and they didn't have to credit the person. But what I'm saying is, absolutely, this is probably the fucking case, is that they didn't license it at all because they don't fucking need to, and because they know better. I guarantee you, the people who work fucking A&R and the people who produce for Miley Cyrus know better, since her dad's an industry vet and she's an industry vet at this point. I guarantee you they fucking knew if they needed to license it or not, okay? This isn't some Midwestern band that just made it big, who happened to use the same melody as something from like a James Brown song, where that estate will fuck you royally up the ass if you ape their shit. No, this was an established fucking artist who tours nationally, who is worth probably close to $1 billion. Not quite Taylor Swift level, but fucking up there. They know their shit. If they need to pay someone for this, they will pay it. They can afford to pay it and will gladly pay it. They don't mind paying licensing fees. They do it all the time when they use samples. So there's no reason why they would be like, yeah, I'm just not going to fucking worry about that. Like, no. If you can save a dime, save the dime. Absolutely. But that's in the composition, and that's up to the producers and the A&R folks who know what the fuck is up and know how to do this right. And as I've just laid out, I'm like, no, they did it right. That's why they don't have to give a cred.
we will include that the credit will be X, Y, and Z. So we're making some assumptions right now that there weren't actually deals done in place, and maybe there was no right of credit in these agreements. So we're just assuming these other songs were made and no kind of license was put into place. And on top of all of that, credit was not actually given.
Wikipedia entry. Under Prisoner for Miley Cyrus, it says the song's chorus interpolates the melody from Olivia Newton-John's 1981 song Physical. Interpolates. What does that mean? Let's click on that word here. It says in popular music, interpolation refers to using a melody or portions of a melody, often with modified lyrics from a previously recorded song, but re-recording the melody instead of directly sampling it. It's often used when the artist or label who owns the recording declines to license the sample, or licensing the piece of music is considered too costly.
So interpolation happens a lot, and people get confused and they go, well, with cover songs are where you make your own version, but you keep the same lyrics, the same structure, but it might be a different genre, it might be a different vibe, you might slow it down, right? But it's a cover song. That is allowable under the Copyright Act. And then there's straight up sampling. Straight up sampling is that from someone else's song, you took literally something.
Well, and actually, the copyright thing is not just allowable. You're not just allowed to make a cover. With a cover, it depends on what they have set up. Some artists have they allow people to make covers endlessly, and some don't. They make people pay for mechanical rights. In which case, in order to like record the song and then distribute the song, they pay a one-time fee, and then they don't have to pay royalties. And sometimes that depends. Sometimes they have to hear the song, and if it's just straight up the same exact fucking thing, like a carbon copy of it, and they're like, yeah, fuck you, we want royalties on this. But if it's substantially changing it, or well, and it's up to the discretion of the copyright owner at that point, then they're like, okay, cool, yeah, one-time fee, and yeah, you get to play your version of our song. So even that's not that clear cut, and she's not being very transparent with how that works. But then again, her video wouldn't be 9 minutes long then. So
Something from the song itself. A little vocal, a little, loop from the guitar riff, whatever. So that is sampling. You need to get a license in order to sample
but
someone
she's right about the sampling thing. Yes, absolutely right about sampling.
else's music. And then
again, anybody who makes music at all today, even people who don't know shit about making music, knows about sampling and how you can't just sample things and get away with it.
This, what we'll call a third category, is interpolating music, which is, let's say Rick Beato releases his new hit song, and I don't take anything from the actual song.
Let's say Rick Beato releases his new hit song, and I'm just like, yeah. Where's Doc Brown for a time machine so that we can have Rick Beato release a new hit song?
Cover song, but he has a great melody, and I want to interpolate the melody into my new creation, right? So I have all new parts and all new everything, but I'm still taking his melody. Well, if I'm interpolating, I still need to go get a license. And we see this done over and over. The one that comes to mind right now is Milkshake by Khalees and Pharrell and Chad. But, Milkshake was interpolated into one of Beyonce's albums. And so she went and got a license to do that. But it's not an exact kind of thing. There was no sampling, but it's the same kind of clearance process as sampling. Music attorney.
Yes, Beyonce, the billionaire, did her due diligence on something she didn't necessarily have to do due diligence on, which is pretty standard fare for people who have the money for it because they want to cover their ass because they know that we're talking about billions of dollars. So when it comes to having to give someone a cut, you make sure that you pay and take care of your shit. That's just basic.
Is your number one legal resource for artists, producers, and record labels. Get contract templates, one-on-one legal advice, free masterclass.
Skip her ad.
I don't get. And as long as interpolate
music business, go to topmusicattorney.com.
So interpolating something is you basically steal the melody, and as long as you're re-recording it with new lyrics, that it becomes yours. I don't get this yet. Let's check out the next two songs. Break My Heart.
Okay, so he's talking about interpolation. So interpolation is, yes, you would basically snag a small section of something, or all of it. Honestly, you could apply it to an entire song. And then use it in your own composition and then write your own lyrics of the top or make mild changes to that melody. Now, his issue with the interpolation is he sees it a lot in reviews. He sees that they use the term interpolation. Now, a critic using the term interpolation versus an actual composer using the term interpolation is not the same thing. A critic isn't a composer. So when a critic says interpolation, he's like, aha, they interpolated this. I'm like, so it's the same. No, it's not. I just displayed how it's not the same in most of his examples. So yeah, he's digging into this one term specifically without fully understanding the context of how it's being used when he saw the word. And he's not talking about composers using the term interpolation. He's talking about critics alone. So keep that in mind.
By Dua Lipa, which came out in 2020, and Need You Tonight by In Excess, which was released in 1987. The guitar riff is so similar that I remember commenting on it back in 2020 in one of my videos, saying that's lifted from In Excess. And it says right here on Wikipedia, several music critics commented on production elements of Break My Heart, as well as Need You Tonight interpolation. Here we go with
Yes,
that word.
several critics said this. No composers,
to the last one,
no
as
lawyers.
You can see here,
just
Michael
critics.
Hutchins and Andrew Ferris from In Excess have been added.
People who listen to music said it sounds similar. I'm like, yeah, the tempo and rhythm are similar. So yeah, you're going to say it's similar.
As songwriters on this, in addition to the other ones. So they obviously had much better lawyers. You guys know through the history of this channel, I've made many...
No, they didn't have better lawyers. They just didn't get sued because there was no grounds to sue them, because a lawyer probably told them it would be stupid to sue.
Videos of copyright infringement lawsuits, and also where songs have been lifted from other songs, or as far as I was concerned. Matter of fact, there was a song, Justin Bieber song, Anyone. The chorus is pretty much identical to the song Going Home by Toto. Okay,
this is the one where he's absolutely right. I'll give him credit where credit is due here. Like, this one absolutely does just ape the fucking melody.
Would never know unless you actually listen to these Toto records. Here's a little bit from that video. Toto, Bieber, Toto, Bieber. Here are the songwriters from Toto. You notice that none of them are included as songwriters from the song Anyone.
Quick little story. So I have a very...
That's Bieber for you, though. You know, it's the old Justin Bieber. Nobody fucking needs ya. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. 'Cause you're a little cunt. And yeah, I totally, absolutely buy that Justin Bieber would just ape an entire fucking melody and then not fucking pay anyone for it. But also, don't forget he's Canadian, so I'm not entirely sure how it works trying to sue him specifically. I know since he operates in our market here in the US, largely, he is definitely a target for that. So they could sue him, but they just haven't.
Complicated copyright case. We're in federal court, and I actually use interpolation to try to explain this kind of complex legal theory to the court, right?
Oh yeah, and here we go. She's going to go on to explain how she used interpolation for something that was pretty clear cut as a bad faith argument to explain how, you know, the other side was wrong, even though honestly her client probably is infringing on the original work because they pretty much used it in its entirety. But okay.
So basically it has to do with when you make what are the derivative works, right? We talked about that. So basically this is what I argued to the court as I was trying to explain how you can copy something, but it can be kind of far removed, but you still have to like go through these processes. This is the example I gave the court. So I go, in music, it is common for artists to interpolate elements from
All right, I have less than 30 seconds here.
Permission, such as Frank Ocean's White Ferrari
So we're going to skip through some of this.
Borrows only a derivative from the as but took the
I think
I
that's
saw it crop up in the last few years. It seems like some made up.
yeah, that's pretty much it.